Hello, I'm here today in the wrestling shirt. Today I'm going to be reading the story that I wrote and sent into the Parsec short story writing contest. I specifically submitted this to the youth writing contest because there's just going to be less people there, and I'll be honest, I don't like having competition. Businesses don't like having competition. Writers don't like having competition. Nobody likes having competition. This is the story that I've mentioned multiple times in recent videos. The one that started from just 2 lines in my head and grew and grew and grew until it was a significantly larger idea. Hopefully you can take the lesson from this story that you can start with a very small idea and just think about it until it's very big, and then it becomes something surprisingly good. And we'll see in upcoming weeks or months. I don't know how long Parsec takes to get back to people. I'm still waiting for the email, probably in vain for until like a month from now at least. But hopefully we'll see surprisingly competitive. Comment below how you think this story, how it was written, whether or not the characters were relatable, or if they came across as sort of stereotypes of the academic guy, the less professional guy. I tried to make both of them less of a stereotype as much as possible, but comment below. I would love to hear how much I accidentally pigeonholed them, because I feel I did at least a little bit. This isn't a perfect story. Give me your honest reviews below. So without further ado, here is How to Truly Live by yours truly, Moshe Chaim Davidovich. What's your professional opinion? Dwight spat. Smells like fucking hell. If he was a smoker, Jace figured he would have lit up right then. When we're done with them, I'm taking those damn scent samples and burning them. Jace sighed, putting a hand on the glass in front of them. 13 years as a corpse geek, and you may just be the least professional partner I've ever worked with. Somebody's gotta keep us all awake here. And corpse geek, it's what everyone says, but ain't so professional yourself. Jace put a hand to his chest. My apologies. 13 years as a carcass analyst pertaining to species not typical of life found on Earth, and you're the most unhelpful brick wall I've ever worked with. Dwight put his face close to the glass, leaning over the counter on which sat the control panels, from which they could put the specimen beyond the glass under dozens of stimuli, heat, gases, whatever they fancied. For now it just sat there, suspended in a massive tube of the fluid solution that kept it hovering between death and consciousness. It's why you love me. And what's to say this thing ain't typical? Made from Earth life, kind of. To still use a rundown on how the hell that's supposed to work. They were the only people in the large, blindingly white laboratory room. Behind them stood tables covered in all the gadgets, gizmos, and whoosy-whatsits that they used in their work. Made from Earth life? Yes. Typical? You're out of your mind if you think so. Jay sat down in a swiveling chair in front of the counter. So you remember the Siphonotera Vitae? The diggy sucker? Sure, they moved that out of our department ages ago. Been studied enough that it's part of the, Dwight made air quotations with his fingers, regular body of science. As if picking corpses apart is something weird. Speaking of which, how come we're on this case? That thing ain't dead yet. It will be soon, or at least it's projected to be. Another 12 hours at most. And what really matters is that it's unknown. The job title says carcass analyst, but I've always thought the real reason we're analyzing anything is because they need people with the balls to pick apart species nobody's ever seen before, braving all manner of unpleasant scents along the way. They make our job easier by killing everything first. So why ain't we killed this thing? We need to keep it from decomposing until we can get better samples of its DNA. Plus, monitoring its vitals is interesting. Jace tapped a screen. Its heart rate goes up something like 10 beats per minute every minute till after 7-ish minutes it's up at around 150 before it drops back down to 80-ish. Anyways, as I was saying, you know Dr. Kakaisen? Sure. Taught my experimental biology seminar at the military academy. Jace nodded. Mine too. I'm sure you remember the whole panic when he disappeared for a few months. The CIA put over 100 people on the search, or so goes the gossip at the water cooler. Well, they found him. Him and his novel-length journal. Jace gestured at the thing in the large, brightly lit area behind the glass, its walls glistening chrome. And his experiment. This thing. They're still deciphering the chicken scratch that half of the journal is written in, but the more intelligible parts tell the tale of him melding his own DNA with a specimen of Siphonothera vitae. How one does that, I'm mind-boggled. It's why we're taking so many samples. We're still trying to separate what genes are the Siphonothera vitae and what genes are his. Says he picked Siphonothera vitae because it was so adaptable. Rambles about its restructural capabilities. Dwight clicked his tongue. I like kids and all, but the way I was raised, you find a nice lady to go halvesies on your genes with, not a fucking... Dwight gestured at the thing in the tube. How the hell does a human meld with a goddamn plant anyways? Jace wagged a finger. Somebody wasn't paying attention in class. He sat back. Siphonothera vitae, despite its almost tree-like or shrub-like appearance, is an animal. The roots it's known for, those do chemosynthesis, photosynthesis, take energy from living things, soil, just about everything else. But the key point is that they're not roots. They're more like tentacles, really. Upon closer inspection, Siphonothera vitae was found to have organs, including a surprisingly advanced brain. Yeah, whatever. Debate's still going on that regard, to be fair. Muscle structure is more like the kind typical of a myophytic plant. Muscle plantsies. You're not the only one who earned his job here. So where's the tentacles on that thing? Dwight put his finger to the glass. It's been observed absorbing or retracting its tentacles and resprouting them. We believe it does so when threatened or in medical shock, as it most likely is currently. Now, if you let me get on with the story... When in your life have I ever let you get on with a story? Quit being so dismissive. Hell if I know what he was trying to do with it, but you have to give credit for such a huge breakthrough. Genetic fusion has barely begun being researched in human-to-human cases, and he pulls it off human-to-alien. I guess. Now come on, get on with it. Dwight pulled up a chair and sat down next to Jace. Jace threw up his hands. Get on with... Oh, I'm not even going to say anything. So Dr. Kakazen locks himself in his laboratory for months, throwing his heart and soul into his research. Almost half of his journal is from after his disappearance. His autopsy couldn't confirm the cause of death, but that thing in the tube fed on him for at least a week. Dwight whistled. A week? When was it born? Is that the word? The rate a diggy sucker grows at, that's, what, half its gestation? We're still running tests to confirm, but we believe that this specimen is roughly a month old and still adolescent. The human genes likely slowed its gestation considerably. Jace stroked his chin. Dr. Kakazen had an immense amount of dedication to the craft, you have to give him that. According to the journal, after he determined that human tissues and proteins were most conducive to the growth of the specimen, he started feeding it his blood, then bits of his skin, a hand, an arm. A ding sounded from a screen on the counter. Oh, perfect timing. Our codebreakers just got back to us with another translated section of his journal. Jace tapped a few buttons on the screen, then cleared his throat. I have found that the lack of an arm has not impeded my experimentation as much as I expected. The specimen is only growing slightly behind schedule. When placed under threatening stimuli, it has already begun to utilize its restructural capabilities, whatever the hell that means, to adapt rapidly. After an hour under intense heat, when I was beginning to fear for its life and about to turn off the heat, I found that it had gained the ability to sweat, accessing just the information it needed from the deepest recesses of me. The temperatures the specimen underwent would have killed me a dozen times over. I'm on the brink of it. If I was able to utilize the principles of genetic fusion to splice my DNA in that of a Siphonothera vitae, I am but one step away from combining this new creature in myself. This tumor will not claim my life. Tumor? Damn. Had no clue he was terminal. It has rebuilt itself to stay alive, and so will I. Besides, for a small few, all the human race to this point have been fools. Those small few, of which I am one, are those who know that we were never meant to die. We simply have not yet discovered how to become perfect. We have not yet discovered how to truly live. Until now. Dwight scrunched up his face. Truly live? Hear a lot about that from my wife. Live a little, Dwight, blah, blah, blah. But somehow I don't think that's what Kakazen meant. Jace stood up and walked quickly toward one of the tables. Well, the newest batch of DNA samples has been ready for the last 10 minutes. They might hold the answer. Jace slid the slides with the samples into the gray rectangular scanner, fumbled with the settings. Dwight went to a filing cabinet near the wall and grabbed some blank sheets of Diapape, the wonderfully named brand of paper the U.S. government used to record genetic information from unknown life forms. Jace inserted the Diapape into the scanner and switched it on. For half a minute, the scanner beeped and booped, then went silent for 10 seconds before spitting out the Diapape, its rows and columns and boxes filled with words and checks and numbers and other kinds of information. Jace grabbed the Diapape on the way out and sped over to the filing cabinet, quickly skimming through folders before pulling out a thin one labeled number 233544, Genetic Fusion, Adrian Kakazen, Siphonoterra Vitae. He slapped the folder onto the desk, rifled through it until he found several sheets of Diapape, slid them out, and spread them out on the table next to the new samples. Dwight leaned over the table, scanning the sheets. What the hell is this? This thing's open reading frames are inconsistent. The coding regions have shifted completely. The transposons are going nuts. And out of any species I've seen, I've never seen CRISPR adaptations happen that fast. He scanned for another 10 seconds. The RNA isn't matching the DNA. It's spamming A to I and C to U conversions like a one-trick gamer. He tapped Jace on the shoulder. Earth to Corpse Geek, what the hell is this thing rewriting its own genetic coding? Jace steepled his fingers, his eyes flitting across the sheets of Diapape. Dwight blinked. It's not fucking JavaScript. You can't just... Jace shot up, grabbing Dwight by the shoulders. The coding for slow-twitch muscle fibers has been completely reversed. It's rewriting itself, Dwight. It's rebuilding to survive. It's... He spun around and snapped his fingers. It's restructuring. That's what Dr. Kakazen meant. He squinted at the creature, then ran up to the glass, pointing. Look! Dwight came up behind him a moment later. Look at what? The hell? He turned to Jace. Why are its tentacles budding? Have we ever seen any species engage in chemosynthesis with whatever it is we have them floating around in those tubes? Jace shook his head. There's energy in that stuff, but nothing has ever been known to digest it. And I'd have to get some measurements, but I swear its fingers are shorter than they were. More like a Siphonoterra Vitae than a human. Dwight scrunched up his face. That's the biggest scientific breakthrough in the last 200 years at least, Jace said slowly. He wheeled on Dwight. The doctor wasn't some mad scientist after all. Do you have any idea of the implications of this discovery? Genetic fusion could be on the brink of a renaissance. Think, Dwight. No more chronic illness. No more weakness. No more stupidity. No, that's wonderful. Dwight gestured at the thing in the tube. We can all have ugly alien babies that want to kill us and can rewrite themselves to stay alive to keep killing us some more. Jace crossed his arms. I'm not talking about more of this thing. Like Kakazen said, splicing it with humans. Kakazen went too headlong into it, but he's taken one giant leap for mankind. He's laid the groundwork. All we have to do is not feed ourselves to that thing. Maybe make a few more just to keep them in tubes, fuse the restructural capabilities into our own coding. Human perfection. Jay sat down at the counter in front of a keyboard, tapping away for a few seconds. There. That should help it stay alive until it can adapt to survive its injuries. Do my eyes deceive me, or are they shrinking already? Do you have the clearance to keep this thing alive? It was put in here with the expectation that it would die within a certain amount of time. Jace put a hand to his chin. No wonder he taught experimental biology. Jace? Healthcare industry gone? Sports leagues restructured. Jace. The American military would surpass that of the rest of the world combined. As the ones who discovered this anomaly, we'd go down in history. Jace! Dwight grabbed him by the shoulder. The hell, man? I said, do you have the clearance to keep that thing alive? He sighed. Just think about where this path led Kakazen. Dwight glanced at the specimen. Why the fuck is that thing twitching? Jay smiled warmly. Don't know what's got you so stiff and stern. Smile, Dwight. In the next decade, less even, humanity will find out what it means to truly live.